For many of us, Bill Nye was our first introduction to many topics in the natural sciences. But what are the natural sciences? Natural science is defined as a science or knowledge of objects or processes observable in nature. The natural sciences are one of 8 areas of knowledge in TOK, which means it's one of the areas where we consider how we know what we know. The natural sciences are an area of knowledge that demands a certain amount of collaboration between those practicing it. In order to develop a field further, there has to be development in the fields around it as well. Natural science involves knowledge of objects or processes observable in nature within physics, chemistry, biology, etc., all that deal with matter, energy, and transformations. These insights allow us to understand the world's processes, whether this is within pure or applied science. Natural science is found in biology, chemistry, physics, computer science, etc., and can be applied to antibiotics, electricity, computers, explain careers and inventions within this.
Every area of knowledge has its way of approaching certain knowledge claims. In the case of the natural sciences, this may be something already familiar with, the scientific method. The scientific method sets guidelines for conducting experiments, and these steps may be modified based on the field. However, the common thread between each individual field in science is that they all follow the same pattern. Ask questions, make observations, get results. This ensures that experiments are reproducible and that the knowledge we gain is sound. Because of its empirical nature, science is a great tool for challenging one's beliefs. The methodology used allows for more true and valid knowledge to prevail. Both scientific results and methodologies are expected to be shared, which means that mistakes can be identified and knowledge can be determined credible or incredible. For example, a doctor published a study which implied that vaccines were causally linked to autism. However, the methods and data used in this study were flawed, and the idea was then thrown out. This example shows the need for the scientific method and peer reviews in order to ensure that the information we are getting is correct. With more correct information, we can create more discoveries, which eventually leads to paradigm shifts, or a change in a commonly believed theory or law.
Natural science is based on empiricism, which means that knowledge rests on information acquired by observation or experimentation. The scientific method helps support or disprove a theory. This was made in the rise of science concern rationalism, advocated by René Descartes and Francis Bacon in the 17th century. The scientific method helps provide a guideline as what can be an effective and accurate experiment, yielding results to the scientific community. It also helps experiments in their ability to be replicated, which ensures that the results are accurate. Empirical evidence is of both qualitative and quantitative data. Quantitative data is data that can be written as numbers, focusing on a nomothetic approach, whereas qualitative is with descriptive characteristics from an ideographic approach. When compared to human sciences, natural sciences involve more experiments and logic rather than about behavior, thought, and emotion. Bias are aimed to not be present within research, however, can unconsciously drive researchers to fulfill a certain belief. In the 1960s, scientific historian and philosopher Thomas Kuhn concluded with the idea that scientists can be influenced by prior beliefs and experiences. Empirical laws are scientific laws that can be proven or disproven using observations or experiments. Most applied theories need to be empirical in order to find the most effective solution or treatment. 3 types of evidence are important in the natural sciences. The first is empirical. Empirical evidence is evidence acquired by observation or experimentation. Anecdotal evidence is composed of stories that have been experienced to prove or disprove a point. Lastly, logical evidence is evidence used to prove or disprove an idea using inductive or deductive reasoning. Inductivism is a traditional approach to develop testable models which capture its essential features. These stages include observation, hypothesis, experiment, law, and then theory. There are 2 problems with observation. The first is that our expectations can influence what we see. This is also known as confirmation bias. Mercury was found to be deviating from the orbit predicted by Newton's laws, and some 19th century astronomers suggested that the anomaly was caused by an undiscovered planet called Vulcan. They were so confident in this belief that several other astronomers claimed that they had observed this. It turned out that Vulcan does not exist, and the deviation of Mercury was because of Einstein's later theory of relativity. The observer effect states that the act of observation can sometimes affect what we observe. For example, measuring the temperature of something is measuring the temperature of something with the thermometer in it. However, this seems to be a problem without a solution, and we may never know if this margin of error is totally insignificant or mildly significant. Whenever we test a hypothesis, we make various background assumptions, one of which could be false. For example, Darwin's theory of heredity was based on the theory of acquired characteristics, which while was believed by the majority of scientists in the 1900s, it was later deemed false. This led to the theory of heredity, called Mendelism, to finally be regarded as true, even though both theories emerged in the 1860s. These background assumptions seem to be carefully considered before setting up a base of an experiment. There is a problem with induction within the natural sciences, because making generalizations about things we have not observed may be inaccurate. This raises the question of how many observations we need before we are entitled to make a conclusion. With more observations and individual conclusions, there is more credibility. However, even the most confirmed generalizations sometimes have been proven false. Up until the 18th century, it was believed that all swans were white. It wasn't until a case that discovered rare black swans in Australia that this was all deemed wrong. This is why scientists should make conclusions that say all observed metals or all observed swans instead of saying just all. Theoretically, there would be a capital T truth to knowledge within the natural sciences. However, due to contrasting perspectives, the conclusions done by various scientists tend to be different. How do we know when science is objective? These answers lie within a few aspects. First, how much bias is present in analyzing? The cause for certain diseases with various risk factors are hard to deal with holistically. However, for a concept such as cell respiration, it is much easier to analyze through one unbiased perspective because there is less of a need to make certain assumptions. The area of natural sciences conflicts with the knowledge of faith, especially between the idea of creationism versus evolution. Faith makes conclusions beyond empirical evidence, which leads to countering arguments.
The natural sciences help us understand the world around us, and without them, the world that we know today could not exist. They help reveal truths about our world that shape the way that modern technology develops. Technology helps us develop science, and science helps develop technology. Together, they shape what we know and how we know it.